Hey, everybody, welcome to Always Bookin Comedy. We're back. It's another Monday, and we got Ricci Armani here. I don't have my production assistant to remind me where Ricci lives. So, Ricci, remind me where you are.
I'm based out of Seattle, Washington.
Oh, awesome. Terrific.
Yeah, but
Pacific
I'm
Northwest.
everywhere. So wherever you need me, I'm there.
All right, cool. You do a lot of travel?
This year I have. It's been a weird year. Like I got laid off at the beginning of the year, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna be a full-time comic. And
Yeah,
ever
we
since
need,
then, what?
we
Go
should
ahead.
work on that wording, Ricci.
I know.
You became a full-time comedian this year. Yeah,
Yes, I
absolutely.
I did, and I've been traveling so much more before comedy as a result, and it's just manifestation, I think. I think I just said, "I'm gonna do it now," and then everything just kinda lined up, and it worked.
That's outstanding. All right, let's start with tell me about your like how long you've been doing comedy. How did you start comedy? Why did you start comedy? Like, a little origin story stuff.
Okay, this is, yeah, so, uh, I guess we'll Quentin Tarantino this, like, we'll start in the middle somewhere, and then we'll,
Okay.
like,
All right.
go forward. So, in 2018, I got a DUI, and it was kind of a bunch of bullshit. I'm sorry, can I swear on this? I
Yeah,
don't.
yeah, it's fine.
Okay,
We're not
so I
now. You won't get residuals. We're demonetized now on YouTube, but it's no big deal.
That's okay. So yeah, I got a DUI, and I blew like a .081. It was like nothing. It was like a beer, and so I had to go into an outpatient program to get out of this DUI that they were charging me for. And while I was there, I had time to be sober, which was super beneficial to me, even though I wasn't like an alcoholic or anything. But when I had that moment, I was like, okay, well, like, what do I actually want to do? And I'd always thought about trying stand-up comedy, and I would crack jokes in like group therapy time, and there was this one guy there who was like, you've always wanted to do comedy, you're very funny, you should just do it. And so he took me to my first open mic, and I saw my first open mic in early 2019, and I was like, oh, I can totally do this. So the next week I went and did my first open mic, and I did it at a club here in Seattle. And when I was there, I was so nervous, and I only wrote like dirty jokes. But like the second I got on stage, I was like, oh, this feels right. And then like I didn't go back for a month because I thought you had to write something new every time you went to an open mic. And then I realized that you didn't have to do that. And then 2019, I was just an open micer. I just did all of the open mics in Seattle as often as I could, and I wrote all the time. I was constantly writing about stupid things, like just stuff that doesn't even I would never even say on stage now. I mean, I'm sure we all have that, right? Like every stand-up comic started with like material that they're just like, "Oh god, I can't believe I used to say that on stage into a microphone."
I do that
Um
every week. I'm embarrassed by material I wrote yesterday.
I you know what, honestly, I do know that feeling because I just bombed really hard in Austin. I was like, "What was I thinking?" Like that was not what I needed. Um but yeah, so I did that, and then the Pandy Wandy hit, and then I just that's all I thought about. I only thought about doing stand up again, and then when 2021 happened, I was like, okay, yeah,
Did you
let's
hold
just.
on, pause there? Did you
Sorry.
do any online stuff?
Oh
Or
Christ.
did you take a hard break?
I did not take a hard break. I was so thirsty and desperate that I was like, I'll do a Zoom show. How hard could it be? I think I did maybe like two or three of them in the first few months of the pandemic, and I was like, I'm never doing this again. This is
This is
terrible.
soul crushing.
I was like,
Destroying my confidence.
yeah, I was like, maybe I'm not that desperate.
Yeah.
But and then like it was like kind of during then that I realized that like I'd always wanted to do stand up like that, like during that quarantine era where I thought about it like every day. I was like, oh my god, like since I was a kid, I've actually always wanted to do this. I didn't realize like how much I started thinking back and watching old stand-up specials and listening to old comedy albums that I'd owned. Like I owned Dane Cook's like I think his like first two albums, and I was like listening to those, and I was like, "Oh my god, I used to emulate this. I used to try to be Dane Cook when I was like retelling stories." And then like I was a big fan of Amy Schumer also, and I rewatched her Comedy Central special, and I was like, "Fuck, she's still funny." Like to me, like, this is still funny to me. I wanted to be that. I wanted to do that. I wanted that attention. And then I rewatched all of Joe Coy's old things, and I was like, oh my God, yes, I always wanted to be a Filipino stand-up comedian. Like, yes, I wanted this. I've always wanted this my whole life. And I didn't know it, until the pandemic made me sit with myself.
That's great.
Hmm.
Cool. Well, let me ask you this about the online stuff. Did you
Yeah.
have you ever been to an open mic that was worse than your online experiences?
Yes. In New York, I
Oh,
did
they're
I
hard.
did some open mics there, and they were like, it'll
Did
be
you have to pay?
$5, $10.
Yeah.
Yeah. I one time did an open mic in New York. I don't want to say where because I'd like to go back because they do have good shows. But one time I did an open mic in New
It was the
York,
Grizzly
and
Pear, everybody.
that open mic was tough, but that was not the toughest one
Okay.
that I
All right.
did. It was not the tough. It was, so we had to pay. I think it was like $5, and we went upstairs to a room that was literally no bigger than like a dorm room, and there was like maybe like 10 guys in there, and they were like, okay, pay up. And so we all paid, and after we'd given the money, the host was like, so the mic doesn't work, and we just kind of have to like hold the mic and like talk to each other that way. And I was like, holy fucking shit, I want a refund. And they were like, oh, sorry, no refunds, like. And so we just had to do time in front of each other.
Acapella.
Yeah,
Uh,
and it was
yeah,
weird because I'm like,
it's
this
like a
is just
therapy session.
this is like the worst workshop therapy session I've ever been to in my, like, I've been to AA meetings that weren't this sad. You know what I mean? But like I sat through it for like an hour, I think, before it was my turn, and I was just like, I've never wanted an open mic to end so fast in my life. Have you ever had to deal with that? Anything like that?
Are you kidding me? I mean, that is open mic comedy. I mean, some mics, the rare exception, an open mic is really great, and you get good feedback on your jokes, and
Mhm.
there's like a civilian audience, like non-comics. It's I mean, I'd say a typical open mic experience is a bunch of comedians that don't want to laugh at your material because they're whether they're being jerks or they're just in their own head about what they're about to perform. There's lots of
Right.
reasons why that happens. Yeah, open mics can be tough. They're very important. They're really like, thank
So
goodness for
important.
open mics because when you're
Yeah.
getting started and you're terrible, there's no way to get better. So it
You
doesn't
need someplace
matter.
to bomb.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. You need to know even how to hold the microphone or like how to, when the microphone's really hot, not to like eat the mic and like just
Mhm.
general I don't know. There's some basics to stand up comedy
Moving
and
the
just
mic stand. I
yeah,
that
yeah, and
that
a
drives me
comfort
nuts.
level on stage. And I think one of the best things about open mics is watching other comics and silently critiquing them so that you don't do those same things. Like I'll watch comics and I'll be like, I hate what that person is doing right now. I got to
Mhm.
make sure I never do that. And frequently I'll be like, oh, I do that. I do that. I needed to quit doing that because I haven't seen anybody else do it until just
That's
now.
me. Yeah, that's like me watching my tapes. I'm just like, oh, when did I start leaning on the stool? When did that happen? Mark, I'm so sorry. Where are you based out
I,
of
I'm
yourself?
in I'm in Denver, Colorado. Or
You're in
I generally
Denver.
say Colorado because I try to stay geographically ambiguous.
Mhm.
But I'm in Denver, and but I travel all over, and
Mhm.
but I'm tethered right now to Colorado because I run the Vail Comedy Festival, which is 100 miles from Denver up in the mountains. Very beautiful place, great
Oh,
shows,
wow.
and I'm so busy with that I can't really be on the road these couple of weeks. Right, it's in 2 weekends,
Oh
uh,
God. Okay.
so there's a lot going
You
on with that.
busy man right now.
Yeah,
Gosh, running a comedy festival is so much work. Good for you. Good for
yeah,
you.
yeah. I try to give back. It's fun and it's rewarding as well. Like the
Mhm.
more, it's like anything else in life. The more you put into it, the more, if it goes well, the more you get out of it.
We hope, right?
Yeah,
Like, hope.
yeah, yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm so, when I podcast, or when I'm on someone's podcast, I always ask questions too. But I was gonna ask you,
It's
like,
okay.
I'm sure your listeners have heard it before, but where is your comedy origin? Like, where did you start? Also.
Oh, look at that. Well, you can buy the book. I don't have it right here. I did write a book about my first 6 months of comedy, and I talk about the whole thing. Everybody can check it out. Notgoodyet.com. The book's not good yet. You can get it anywhere.
Okay.
Independent booksellers, etc. Um, I don't know. I started at the Irish Rover, which is tonight. It was a Monday night. The Irish Rover is a great mic in Denver, Colorado, run by Orrin B on South Broadway.
Mm-hmm.
And it was your classic. I tell the story in the book, but it was your classic show up 2 hours early, so you can get on the list up near the top, and then wait 5 hours while 100-ish comics perform before you, and you want to just kill the open mic host who's never
Yeah.
heard of you, knows you're a nobody. And then I finally go up second to last at 1 in the morning, and it's me and the host and the bartender and one other comedian. And my soul has just slowly evaporated. I'm so angry on stage. And the worst part, the funniest part of the story is the sets, I'm pretty sure, were 3 minutes. And so I had spent like I'd gone to the mic to watch it several times to like get up the
Mm-hmm.
courage to do it. I wrote my 3 minute set. I practiced it with a proverbial,
What everyone does,
brush,
just
whatever,
yeah.
a pen, whatever, in the mirror. And I'm ready to do 3 minutes. I get up there. I'm in the middle of my 3 minute set. He lights me at 1 minute 30. And I'm like, what's going on? This is impossible. And he cuts my mic at 2 minutes. Towards the end, they had dropped the set length to 2 minutes, and I missed that announcement.
Mm-hmm.
And I was furious, and I yelled. I'm like good friends with this guy now, but I yelled at him. I was so mad. I'd waited like 5 hours. I got gypped at it. I didn't even get to tell my closer, which was
Mm.
terrible. Like
It's an open mic's
that's the
closer is
funniest
never
part to
good,
me now.
right? Like it's never great.
Yeah. Anyways, it started with a big bomb. It was pretty terrible. Uh, but that's a lot of people's stories.
Oh yeah,
So
that's everyone's.
yeah. So just to kind of telegraph. Oh, here we go. We got a question before we switch into running shows and getting booked on shows. We got a question from the Carolinas here. I just bought a camera to tape sets. Any tips? You need to ask the host or club for permission. All right, I'll start with this, Ricci, and then you can
Yeah.
add in because I have a lot of experience here. First off, yeah, you definitely want permission. Although sometimes it's better to what's that saying? To ask for forgiveness afterwards,
Yeah.
because a lot of times if you ask, they'll say no. But if you do it, you get away with it. Like out of kind of, I don't even want to say what city, but a very big comedy club, I got away with taping one of my sets just because I didn't ask, and people were astonished that I got away with it. Because they have a very strict, I didn't know I was from out of town. They have a very strict no taping policy because the club often, it's a revenue generator. They want to sell you the tape that they've recorded. Also, logistically, sometimes like if every comic's bringing a camera and it's a very tight room, it can be difficult to find space and it gets complicated and it just seems unprofessional to the audience.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would say, so for tips, definitely include some of the audience in your tape. I can't tell you how much tape I get. A lot of tape sent to me, and I in the comedy festival. I don't actually review tape for the comedy festival, but something I do for all the rejected candidates is, that's a weird way to say that. That's not a very nice way to say it. The people that didn't get in, I offer them a free tape review. In the last 2 years, 25 people have done it. And I do these 10-minute Zoom calls where I watch 5 minutes of their tape. They watch me watch their tape, and I give 5 minutes of feedback. And one kind of common thing is if I can't see the audience, there's a couple problems. One, I don't know if anybody's actually there. Like, did you just add a laugh track? I don't know. Two, there's a positive outcome if you can see the audience and you're killing so hard that they're moving. Like if they're laughing so hard that you can see their shoulders moving, that's really what you want. So that'd be my biggest tip, is include the audience. If you're depending on what you're using the tape for, if you're using it to get booked, definitely try to have your background be some kind of recognizable club, as opposed to 2 years ago for the festival, we got tape from somebody who taped it in their car. They were like just in a car by themselves, did a 5 minute set. That's not great. I mean, you could be hilarious. I'm sure some people could kill it at that, but the booker, they're making like snap judgments, and they're gonna see right away, is this an open mic? Is the sound terrible? Sound is surprisingly important, by the way. So get good sound. Try and record on if you don't have any extra sound equipment, at least record on your phone from the stage, and then later merge the two files, because you'll be able to hear the laughter better from the stage on your phone. That's a little bit about that. Anyways,
Mhm.
anything extra to add, Ricci?
Honestly, I just had this problem. I had an amazing killer set and I recorded the entire thing, but I did not set up my camera properly and my face was overexposed on the set. So like you couldn't really tell it was me. So just make sure that if you're using a camera that has those settings, know how to use it and how to adjust it in the room that you're in because sometimes you'll overexpose yourself and the tape will be unusable and it sucks because it's like, Christ, I just did the best set ever. Like,
Yeah, along those lines, it's the same feedback. I would just say tape every single set because you'll find
Mm-hmm.
that, like if you're lucky, you'll be in a place with very bright lights and you realize, oh, I messed that up. And then so the next time you're in a place with very bright lights, you'll know how to adjust it or whatever. The other thing is sometimes comics get nervous when they're taping themselves. And if you tape every single set, it's like you get used to being taped and
Yeah.
you don't do that. All right, so let's talk about a booking win, Ricci. Something you were really excited about to get booked on or invited to.
Yeah. So this is like the like early 2021. I had only ever been booked for like bar shows and I got booked to work the Tacoma Comedy Club. The headliner asked me specifically if I could host for him. And that was like a huge win for me because I didn't know it at the time, but I thought that all like open micers eventually get to work the local club. Like I thought that that was just something we all got to do, but the gravity of it kind of set in after I'd done my set and the booker was like, "Oh my god, we need to have you back." And like so that kind of like kicked off like my whole career as a comic because that's what started earning me street cred because I later found out not everyone gets to work a club as a
Right.
comic in like whatever city you're in. So once I got into that club, everyone found out that there was a new kid on the block and then I started getting booked for all these other shows by people who were already working the club and who were running shows, indie producers. It got me into other clubs in the area that kind like people started vouching for me. So that was my big win and honestly like i consider a lot of I consider a lot of the bookings that I get wins, but that was definitely like the biggest win anytime I
Nice.
get
Can you
a
can
thing.
you offer any advice to anybody trying to get a similar win? Like how did it happen that this headliner invited you to
Yeah.
perform?
So honestly, I think the most important thing in comedy for me, and honestly, what I recommend to everyone is to be nice and be cool. Like
Yeah.
that's so much of what I have found to be helpful to me. Like I could be the least talented person on the lineup, but if I mean I'm not, but like I could be, right? But if the headliner is like I like you. You're fun. You're funny to hang out with. You're an easy person to hang out with. You're nice. You're respectful. That's going to get you so much further than being extremely talented, but kind of like a dick to work with.
Yeah.
And I see it all the time. I see it all the time across like all the clubs I've worked. There's people in every city I've ever been to who are like, "You're so funny. Why aren't you getting booked?" And someone's like, "Oh, they're kind of an asshole to like servers or like the club, or they don't give people the time of day, or they act like their shit doesn't stink." And it's like it's so unfortunate to me that it's like that's not like the first thing that we're taught when we do comedy and we're trying to get into these clubs is just be nice and be cool, be a good hang.
Yeah. And to everybody, you never know who somebody's going to be. If you're going to stick around for 5 years, you don't know who somebody's going to be in 5 years.
Oh,
So
absolutely
be
not.
nice to everybody.
And I mean, and like that was the thing is like the guy that I opened for or that I hosted for, he lived in Seattle for several years and he'd never been to any of the open mics because he was a touring comic. So no one really knew like what he was doing and where he was. And I was the only person who said hi to him at that open mic that night. And then
Hmm.
we just became friends after that. And like then it was Richie was just reading about the Seattle Freeze. Is that a thing in the local scene? Yes, it is. Sorry. I'm so sorry. I saw that, but yeah,
Okay.
anyways, that's the end of my ramble about being nice.
Okay. Do you want to talk about
But
Seattle Freeze?
yes, that is definitely a real thing that exists here in Seattle.
I don't know
The
what it
first,
is. Can you tell me what it is?
yeah, so the Seattle Freeze is the attitude that Seattleites tend to have, and it's very cold. Like
Uh,
we yeah, so like to give you an example of like what the Seattle freeze looks like is like the building that I live in is an elevator building, and none of my neighbors ever say hi to each other when we get on the elevator. And occasionally, like if we make eye contact, we might say hi, but like it's not common practice to do that. People don't say thank you for holding the door open, and like people don't really, they don't want to be friendly towards you. Like no one says hi to each other on the streets. No one starts up a conversation in a bar. We're very much like a keep to ourselves people until like someone forces you to talk to them, I guess. And then you can start coming out of your shell that way. But yes, the Seattle freeze is very real. When I first started doing open mic comedy in Seattle and I really started hitting it hard, that first 6 months that I was doing open mics, I did not make a single friend in the comedy scene here. I would casually say hello to people and hope that they would like say hi back to me. But I would go to open mics, I would sit down in a corner, wait for my turn to do my time, and then I would sit back down and I would watch other people go up and wait until like someone talked to me, or if I tried talking to someone, it felt like I was like intruding on a conversation. It wasn't until like maybe that like 5 or 6 month mark where they were like, "Oh, he's here all the time. Like we can start talking to him." You
Yeah,
know.
there's definitely once you've been around long enough, people they show up and they give up within a few
Mhm.
months. And it's like people don't want to invest time in people who are going to disappear. So yeah, there's definitely a waiting game.
I get
In
that.
comedy,
Yeah.
I'd say that's national. There are definitely some scenes that are nicer than others and communities, but that's interesting about the Seattle Freeze. Okay, let's talk about show running. Have you run a show ever?
I have, and I don't necessarily have like a weird story about any show running. I have, so I run a show here with three of my friends, and we started doing that because when comedy came back post pandemic, we realized right away that we needed to make stage time for ourselves. So the
Mm,
four of us
okay,
got together and we started running a bar show, and then we worked together with a collective space that was made for like high professional workers, and we would set up like an evening show for them where we would book comics and get like an evening show going, and they would provide alcohol. And
okay.
we did
Was
some
that,
rooftop
did
oh, go
you
ahead.
replace the bar show with the collective show, or were you then running two shows?
We started with two, and we realized that we were too young of comics to know what the hell we were doing. And
Okay.
so we ended up leaving the bar show because honestly, the bar show was just, I mean, you've run a dive bar show, I'm sure. You've been to a dive bar show. It was not great. And
Okay.
like half the time, the audience was like, we don't want this happening.
Yeah.
So
It's like
we
ambush
have
comedy.
exactly. And so we ended up cutting that one out uh,
Okay.
within a few months. And then we moved over to the collective, like kind of in the interim. And then after that, we tried doing
So
several
what?
different venues.
Let
Go
me
ahead.
pause
Sorry.
you there. What
hmm
was better about the collective than the bar? Like,
So
why was the
eventually,
collective good?
we thought it was going to be good. We did that for maybe like 6 months.
Okay.
And it was one of those places where they were like, we need people to come to things. Like, so it was very much that, like, kind of like how most bar shows are started, right? It's very much like, we need a way to attract people that's easy and cheap. And we were kind of just in the right place, right time. So
Okay.
my friends and I, it was like a shared workspace that was like a coffee bar, a restaurant. It was like $250 a month to be a part of this place. And they were like, we'll give you a date, we'll give you a budget, here's what you can do, or show us what you can do with this. And
Mhm.
eventually we kind of realized they didn't care about having a show there, they just needed something to put on the calendar. So after about 6 months of that, we quit working with them.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. So they
Because
weren't
like,
really because they weren't drawing an audience.
not really. And like the audience that we were drawing, they didn't really care about comedy. They were kind of just like, it was sold to people as like, hey, like come join this like workspace collective. We have fun things going on. And like the people who were going there, just like they didn't care. Like we had
Yeah.
Andy Haynes on that show one
Oh, I
time.
love Andy. I've
Yeah,
had Andy on a ton of my shows. He's the best. He's
he's
so
so
funny.
sweet and
He should.
so
I
funny.
mean,
Yeah.
he should murder anywhere.
And the thing is, like, that was the day that we were like, okay, we can't do this anymore. We can't ask people like Andy Haynes to do this show and then like have him bomb here. Like, it wasn't a bomb. It was just that the
Sure.
audience, they just didn't care, you know?
Hmm.
So that was our final show. We were like, we're done after this. No more.
That's too bad. Everybody go watch Andy Haynes' special on YouTube. It's terrific. Something about a
hmm
cowboy. I forget what it's
Oh,
called.
the Coward of Gramercy.
The Coward of
Gramercy.
Gramercy. There you go.
Yeah,
Yes, everybody
super great.
open up 5 tabs. The pre-roll film thing is incredible. It's insane. There's like a sketch in the beginning that is so good. It's like very funny. It's very high production value. It's really impressive. And the
Yeah.
stand-up is terrific as well.
Oh,
And it's
he's one of my
free on
favorites.
YouTube, which is incredible.
We love
Okay,
free.
so you learned that lesson that the audience matters. And so, is there a happy ending to this story? Do you have a good regular room now, or where are you at?
Yeah, so we have a great regular room now. We went back to doing a bar show at a bar that actually cares about having people come to the show, which I think is like half the battle for producing your own shows, having a venue that's like, we want this here. So we have a great venue for that. And then my friends and I have also figured out that our most successful shows, our most fun shows, the things that people actually remember us for are pop-up comedy shows. So I'm doing one on the rooftop of the apartment building at Sunset here in Seattle, like in a couple weeks. And then I have another one on another rooftop that I'm taking charge of at another rooftop in Seattle. And that one will actually be a charity benefit. So that one's going to benefit leukemia. So if you're here in
Wow, that's
Seattle and want
great.
to donate to leukemia, come check it out.
Okay, what do you do about seating at those shows? Do people
You know,
bring their own
honest
chairs?
Yeah, so it is like it's always in collaboration with like the apartments, and it's like a lot of these rooftops will have like patio furniture, and then like
Oh,
we're just
okay,
like,
okay, yeah,
bring chairs, bring blankets, bring something to sit on, and
sure,
then we usually negotiate a deal with the apartments to be like, okay, this is a community event, and like we'll just like, we don't charge anyone to come to this show. It's just like you can come, you can watch, and what we'll do is instead of like charging for tickets, we'll provide the alcohol for it, and like, which I don't know if I'm allowed to say this, but we just ask for donations for like comics and alcohol. So we're not
okay,
selling anything. We're just
right,
saying like, if you want to give us money, and those tend to be our most successful shows, honestly. There's a built-in audience in the apartment community already who bring like friends, families, neighbors, anyone who wants to go can come. And it's
yeah,
just in Seattle, especially, it's such a great thing because it's like you get to be outside when it's nice
yeah.
and you don't really have to leave your home, you
I
know?
I love a good pop-up comedy show because the audience feels special. It's like
Mhm.
this is a unique experience just for us, which is what is great about stand-up comedy in the first place. It's just amplified. So, what do you do about sound, lighting, stage, that kind of stuff? Are you just no
Uh,
microphone like the old sad therapy
oh
session, or are
god,
you
no. We have a microphone. We have the whole sound system. We have the sound system, speakers and everything. We
okay.
have a stage light that we set up. It's very like it's very like, did you ever watch those old like at the apartment stand-up sets on
In New
YouTube?
York?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's very that. So, like, we
Okay,
have, like, string lights setting up for, like, a stage area. Sometimes we'll stand on, like, a couch or a table and, like, we'll set up, like, lighting, we'll turn off all the lights and stuff, and
that's
it's
cool.
all that. Very
Nice.
tight,
And
yeah.
how do you are people who don't live in the building allowed to come?
Mhm. Yeah.
How do you attract them? How are you
That's just
marketing this?
honestly, it's all just word of mouth. Like that we got really lucky with like these events that they've been so successful. Like, the first one we ever did, it was just the people who lived in the apartment. And then like the next time we did it, they were like, "Oh my god, we're going to bring friends." And like the last time we did it, it was just like, "We're bringing more friends." And so
So,
it's been very successful just through word of mouth.
2 questions. 1, does the show have some kind of name? Like, what word are they spreading? Like, how do they know,
Um
that
so
it's
like
the
my
same high quality production the second time?
So my group is just called Parlor Tricks Comedy, and like all of our shows are branded as a Parlor Tricks Comedy show.
Got it. Okay.
And but I mean, like, honestly, I think the apartments people just like assume it's the same one because it's like
Sure.
I've been doing this. This is my third year doing this this year, so I think
Okay.
they just know
And
at this point.
I wanna sneak in another quick question. How do people know that, like, there's a show this Friday? Are there posters? Are you doing email blasts? Like, is it Facebook? Like, what do you
Yeah,
how do people
so
know?
it's a little bit of everything.
Okay,
When it's like the bar shows, we do run Facebook ads. I'm starting to question the legitimacy of how well they're working, though, to be honest,
sure,
because I feel
sure.
like it just gets harder every year to figure out what they want to see to make it work.
Right.
But so we Facebook ads, and then specifically the apartment shows, those are just flyers. I put flyers on everyone's door, and then I strike a deal with the apartment manager to talk about it with everyone who comes into the office. And we have posters in the elevators. So those ones are really easy to just get people to show up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. What's
But
a typical audience? 25, 50 people?
I think the last time we did it at the end of last summer, we probably had like 80 people on the roof.
That's awesome, Ricci. Great
Uh-huh.
job. All right. Well,
Thank you.
we're out of time, unfortunately. I could
Oh,
talk to you forever. You did a great job. It was
thank
terrific.
you.
His handle is right there. Anything you want to say to close this out?
If you have any questions about comedy, feel free to ask anyone around you or message me. I don't know. I don't know much, but I'll tell you whatever I do know.
And, well, you know a lot, Ricci. You did a great job tonight. Thank you,
Thank
everybody, for
you.
tuning in. We'll be back next Monday and every future Monday into perpetuity. And have